They doubted her. Audience members laughed at an elderly woman at the talent show, judging her simple navy blue blazer and nervous demeanor. But when Dorothy picked up that vintage microphone and opened her mouth, her first note silenced the room. No one expected what happened next. Dorothy, Jenkins closed the door of the Veteran Support Center with a sigh, her fingers lingering on the worn brass handle. Another day of volunteer, mentoring young cadets was complete. The hallways, usually filled with energetic discussions, now echoed with emptiness as late afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows. She made her way to her desk, reflexively straightening the jar of pencils and stack of pamphlets waiting to be distributed. Instead of sitting down, she opened the bottom drawer and pulled out a worn newspaper clipping. Last call for contestants, the headline announced. Heartland Melody Competition this Friday. Winner records demo at Sunshine Studios. Dot traced the words with her fingertip, her heart racing. She clicked it 3 weeks ago, but hadn't found the courage to act until yesterday, when she'd finally submitted her application online. You're being ridiculous, she whispered to herself. What are you trying to prove at 68? That spent her life playing it safe in unexpected ways. As one of the first female aviators in the Air Force, she devoted 30 years to proving she belonged. Her service record was impeccable. 3 tours overseas, commendations for bravery, rising to the rank of colonel before retirement. But that path meant sacrificing the passion that once defined her youth. Singing, "You still have time," her father had told her during his final days, pressing his old Air Force choir medal into her palm. "I gave up music for duty. Don't make the same mistake." Her cell phone buzzed. It was Linda, the only member of her veteran support group who knew about the audition. "You're not backing out, are you?" the text read. Dot's thumbs hovered over the screen. It would be so easy to cancel, to retreat to the safety of what she knew. Nashville was only a 40-minute drive, but it might as well be another planet compared to the structured life she'd built. The competition would be filled with young talents, people who hadn't buried their dreams under uniforms and regulations. "No," she typed back. "I gave my word." That was true, but not the whole truth. She'd promised her father on his deathbed 6 months ago that she would stop hiding that voice. The memory still brought tears to her eyes. Dot tucked the clipping into her bag and left the center, walking through the empty corridors, shoulders still square from decades of military bearing. Outside, summer heat welcomed her, the air heavy with honeysuckle and anticipation. At home, stood before her closet, pushing aside practical clothing for something appropriate for an audition. Her fingers stopped on a simple navy blue blazer and beige slacks, plain but neat with a professional cut. Not flashy but comfortable. Like her, she slipped them on, twisting to see herself in the mirror. The woman who stared back looked ordinary, silver white hair and a neat short cut, minimal makeup, sensible flat shoes. Nothing about her screamed star quality. The only hints of her military past were her impeccable posture and the disciplined way she carried herself, even alone at home. "Just breathe," she told her reflection. "They can only say no." But as she reached for her purse, her hand trembled. It wasn't just rejection she feared. It was a possibility that her father had been wrong, that the talent she thought she possessed was merely average, forgettable. In the Air Force, she'd learned to suppress personal desires, to focus on a mission. Singing had become something private, shared only with fellow service members during rare downtime or in the shower when no one could hear. I pulled out her father's Air Force choir medal, running her thumb over its worn surface. He'd been stationed in Germany during the Cold War, his powerful baritone earning him a spot in the prestigious military choir that performed for dignitaries and troops alike. "You have my gift," he'd told her when she was young, before she'd chosen the sky over the stage. She pinned the medal inside her blazer, close to her heart. Then before doubt could paralyze her again, she grabbed her car keys and headed for the door. Nashville awaited, and with it a reckoning with the voice she'd kept hidden for far too long. The Melody Hall in downtown Nashville stood like a faded monument to country music's golden era. Once a premier venue for rising stars, the Art Deco building now hosted local events and the occasional talent competition. But to Approaching on foot from the distant parking lot where she'd managed to find a space, it looked as intimidating as the Pentagon. A line of contestants snaked around the building, mostly young women in flashy outfits, makeup perfectly applied, hair styled to perfection. Many carried guitar cases or custom garment bags. They chatted among themselves with the easy familiarity of people who'd done this many times before. Dot took her place at the end of the line, clutching her registration confirmation. She felt conspicuously out of place in her simple outfit, especially when she noticed glances from younger contestants, their eyes quickly assessing and dismissing her. "First time?" asked a tall young woman with an elaborate updo and sparkling earrings that caught the light. She stood with 4 others, all stylishly dressed in coordinated outfits with Nashville Sound Brigade embroidered on their jackets. Dot nodded, attempting a smile. "Is it that obvious?" The young performers exchanged knowing glances. "Everyone starts somewhere," said a second, adjusting her rhinestone-studded denim jacket. "I'm Tammy, and this is our group, the Nashville Sound Brigade. We perform at corporate events and weddings." "Nice to meet you. I'm Dorothy. What's your specialty?" Tammy asked, looking her up and down with barely concealed amusement. "I don't really have one. I just sing." Another exchange of glances, this time with poorly hidden smirks. "Well, good luck," one of the young men said, turning away. The line inched forward, and it felt increasingly out of place. Inside the hall was a flurry of activity. Volunteers directed contestants to registration tables while sound technicians adjusted equipment on the stage. The air buzzed with nervous energy and competing sounds of vocal warm-ups. At the registration desk, a harried woman handed a numbered badge. "Contestant 43. Waiting areas backstage through those doors. You'll be called when it's your turn." Dot pinned the badge to her blazer and made her way through the crowd toward the waiting area. Backstage was chaotic. Performers practicing scales, applying last-minute makeup, or staring at their phones. She found an empty folding chair in the corner and sat down, closed her eyes to center herself. Talking to yourself already? That's not a good sign. Open her eyes to find the Nashville Sound Brigade members standing before her, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and condescension. "What song are you doing?" asked a young man with perfectly styled hair. "Amazing Grace," Dot replied, immediately regretting her choice as they struggled to hide their smirks. "That's traditional," said Tammy with exaggerated politeness. The auditions began, and one by one, singers were called to the stage. Dot watched on a small monitor as contestants performed before a panel of 3 judges and a small audience. Some were talented, others painfully average, but all had a confidence that envied. The Nashville Sound Brigade performed as a group, their harmonies polished and contemporary. They received enthusiastic applause and encouraging comments from the judges. As contestant number 43 drew nearer, Dot's mouth went dry. She touched the metal pinned inside her blazer, remembering her father's confidence in her. Contestant 43, Dorothy Jenkins, called production assistant. Standing on shaky legs, Dot followed him toward the stage. Behind her, she heard one of the Sound Brigade members whisper, "This should be interesting," followed by poorly stifled laughter. Taking a deep breath, Dot stepped into the bright lights toward the vintage microphone standing center stage. Unlike the confident strides of previous contestants, her steps were measured, dignified. The stage lights blinded her momentarily as she made her way to the center. From the wings, the stifled laughter of the Sound Brigade grew more apparent as she took position. In the front rows, other contestants watched with expressions ranging from boredom to amusement. No one expected much from the elderly woman in the navy blue blazer. The head judge, a silver-haired man in a Western-style jacket, glanced up from his notes. "Dorothy Jenkins?" he asked, peering over half-moon glasses. "Yes, sir, though I go by... Well, what will you be singing for us today?" "Amazing Grace," she replied, her voice steady. A few snickers rippled through the audience. It was such a predictable choice. Safe. Overdone. The musical equivalent of vanilla ice cream. "And what's your background in music?" asked a female judge to his right, a former country singer with carefully preserved beauty. I don't have formal training, admitted. I sang in the Air Force choir during my service. You were in the military? The woman asked, seemingly surprised. Yes, ma'am. Air Force. 30 years. Retired as a colonel. More whispers. This wasn't just an amateur. This was a retired military officer, a woman who'd spent her life in a completely different world than the one on this stage. The third judge, a young man with a carefully trimmed beard, didn't even look up from his phone. Well then, said the head judge with a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes, whenever you're ready. Dot gripped the microphone stand, feeling its cool metal against her palms. In the audience, she could see the sound brigade had taken seats in the second row. Tammy leaned over to whisper something, and several members struggled to contain their amusement. Around them, other contestants were already dismissing her, some checking their phones or whispering among themselves. No one was paying attention. No one expected anything worth hearing. A sharp pain lodged in Dot's chest. This feeling was familiar, being overlooked, underestimated, dismissed before she'd even had a chance. It had happened throughout her military career. As one of the few women in her unit, she'd constantly had to prove herself, work harder, be better. People heard female Air Force colonel and pictured someone else, not a real musician with passion and talent. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. They'll always try to put you in a box they understand. Your job isn't fit in that box. It's to break it wide open. Dot straightened her spine and lifted her chin slightly. She wouldn't let them see her doubt, her fear. Miss Jenkins, we're waiting, the head judge prompted, his impatience evident. I'm ready, she said, her voice steady now. She signaled to the technician in the sound booth. The gentle introduction began, piano notes floating through the air like delicate bubbles. In that moment, she noticed something that almost broke her resolve. Tammy had her phone raised, clearly ready to record what she anticipated would be an embarrassing performance. Two other brigade members were covering their mouths, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. The music reached her cue point. Took a deep breath. This was it. Years of singing only for herself, for fellow service members during deployments, for her small veterans group. Her hands trembled slightly, but her resolve strengthened. Let them laugh, she thought. Let them judge. And then Dorothy Jenkins opened her mouth to sing. The first note emerged pure and crystal clear, floating like a shaft of sunlight through stained glass. Dot's voice, a dramatic soprano with remarkable richness, filled the hall with an immediate commanding presence that seemed impossible coming from her small frame. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. The phone in Tammy's hand lowered slowly as her jaw dropped. The smirks vanished from brigade's faces, replaced by wide-eyed disbelief. Throughout the audience, heads snapped up, conversation ceased mid-sentence. That soared through the first verse with control and depth that transformed the familiar hymn. Her voice possessed a rare quality, powerful yet vulnerable, technically perfect yet emotionally raw. The vibrato at the end of each phrase quivered like a living thing. The third judge finally looked up from his phone, eyebrows disappearing beneath his hairline. The female judge sat straighter, leaning forward as if drawn by an invisible force. The head judge removed his glasses, polishing them absently as he listened with newfound attention. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I've already come. As Dot reached the climactic notes, her voice expanded to its full capacity, revealing a breathtaking range. The final note hung in the air, sustained with impossible control, before gently dissolving into silence. For 3 heartbeats, the room remained absolutely still. Then, like a dam breaking, applause erupted, not the polite, obligatory kind given to average performers, but genuine, startled appreciation. Several people rose to their feet, including the female judge. Miss Jenkins, the head judge, said, clearing his throat, "That was unexpected." "Extraordinary is the word you're looking for, Carl," the female judge corrected, still standing. "Where have you been hiding that voice, honey?" Dot, slightly dazed by the response, adjusted the microphone. "In military transport planes, mostly," she answered with a small smile. This drew appreciative laughter from the audience, breaking the tension. "Have you had classical training?" the young judge asked, leaning forward. "No, sir. My father taught me to sing. He was in the Air Force choir during the Cold War. I learned by listening. Lots of listening. That's a dramatic soprano range with coloratura capabilities, the female judge noted. I haven't heard that kind of voice in contemporary music very often. That touched her blazer where her father's medal was pinned. My father always said I inherited his gift, but the military wasn't always the easiest place to pursue singing, especially for a woman trying to be taken seriously. The head judge made a note on his paper. Well, Miss Jenkins, I think I speak for all of us when I say we'd like to hear more. Do you have another song prepared? I could sing Bridge Over Troubled Water, she offered. Please do, said the female judge, settling back into her seat expectantly. As I prepared for her second song, she noticed the sound brigade conferring in hushed whispers. Tammy caught her eye and gave a small, respectful nod, acknowledgement from one singer to another. The backing track began, but the head judge raised his hand. Actually, Miss Jenkins, would you sing this on a cappella? I'd like to hear your voice without accompaniment. Dot nodded, closed her eyes, and began to sing once more, this time with nothing to hide behind. Her voice revealed its true glory, a natural instrument of remarkable power and beauty. The following evening, stood backstage at the Melody Hall Championship round, hardly recognizing her own reflection in the mirror. After her semifinal performance, Linda had driven to Nashville with a dress she'd insisted borrow, a simple but elegant deep blue gown that complemented her silver hair perfectly. But the most striking change wasn't external. It was the way she carried herself. Shoulders back, chin lifted, eyes bright with a newfound confidence that decades in the military had never fully given her. 5 minutes, Miss Jenkins, a stagehand called, Dot nodded, touching her father's medal, now pinned her gown close to her heart. She would be the final performer of the evening, a position usually reserved for the strongest contestant. The Nashville Sound Brigade had already performed, delivering a polished set that earned enthusiastic applause. They had sought her out afterward, wishing her good luck with genuine warmth. The transformation in their attitude still amazed her. You're going to bring the house down, Tammy had said, squeezing her hand. Through the monitor that watched Jason McCoy finish his performance. The young country singer had real talent, his original song drawing a standing ovation from a portion of the audience. Then it was her turn. As she walked onto the stage, was struck by how different it felt from the previous day. The fear was gone, replaced by a quiet certainty. The audience, much larger tonight, hushed as she approached the microphone. Good evening, she said, her voice steady. For my final performance, I'd like to sing a song that's special to me. My father used to sing it when I was a little girl. He always said that someday I'd sing it for people who needed to hear it. The pianist began the gentle introduction to Bridge Over Troubled Water. I closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and sang. From the first note, the connection with the audience was palpable. Her voice, powerful yet intimate, filled every corner of the hall with its warmth and clarity. She sang with her entire soul exposed, allowing the music to flow through her without reservation. When she reached the climactic final verse, her voice soared to heights that seemed to lift the entire room. People in the audience were openly crying, mesmerized by the raw emotion she conveyed. As the final note faded, there was a moment of profound silence, that magical space between the end of great art and the world's response to it. Then the audience erupted, rising to their feet in a unanimous standing ovation that continued for nearly 2 minutes. After all finalists returned to the stage, the announcement came as no surprise to anyone in the hall. Dorothy Jenkins had won the Heartland Melody competition by unanimous decision, as she accepted the modest trophy and certificate for a recording session at Sunshine Studios. That thought about the journey that had brought her here, from flying military aircraft to standing on this stage, she had finally reclaimed the gift she'd hidden for too long. Later, as reporters from local media asked for interviews and fellow contestants sought her out to offer congratulations, they found a quiet moment to step outside under the Nashville night sky. She touched her father's medal and smiled. I did it, Dad, she whispered to the stars. I stopped hiding. Tomorrow she would return to her veteran center and her mentoring, but not as the same Jenkins who had left. Something fundamental had shifted. A door long closed had finally opened, revealing possibilities she was now brave enough to explore. The voice she'd kept silent for so many years had finally found its song. If this story touched your heart, remember that talent comes in all forms, often hidden behind the most unexpected exteriors. Perhaps you've underestimated someone because of their age or background, or even yourself. Let Dot's journey remind us all that it's never too late to step into the spotlight and share your gifts with the world. Have you ever witnessed someone being unfairly judged who later proved everyone wrong? Share your experience in the comments below, showing respect for their courage. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us to look beyond appearances. Thank you for watching.